The Biden administration came in, and remember on the first day of the Biden administration, he signed a flurry of executive orders. A number of those executive orders cut down on the amount of drilling on federal land, couldn't extract oil anymore from a lot of federal land, and cut down on pipelines, got rid of the Keystone XL pipeline. Now, irony of ironies, gasoline prices went up. One of the other things that they did is they got Saudi Arabia to stop fighting the Houthi Yemeni rebels. The Yemeni terrorists were blowing up refineries in Saudi Arabia, wreaking havoc on the global oil markets, and Joe Biden sided with them against Saudi Arabia. And now what's happening? They're trying to blame OPEC for oil prices. Here's a statement from National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan on the need for reliable and stable global energy markets. That's the title. Higher gasoline costs, if left unchecked, risk harming the ongoing global recovery. The price of crude oil has been higher than it was at the end of 2019 before the onset of the pandemic. While OPEC Plus recently agreed to production increases, these increases will not fully offset previous production cuts that OPEC imposed during the pandemic well into 2022. At a critical moment in the global recovery, this is simply not enough. And it goes on to say other things. Wait just a damn minute. This administration has waged war on natural gas and oil production in the United States of America. This administration has cut out drilling from federal land. This administration has walked back drilling in Anwar. This administration has walked back drilling offshore. This administration has shut down pipelines. This administration has driven up costs. This administration has driven up regulation, all of which has caused an increase in the cost of a domestic barrel of oil, all of which has caused an increase in a gallon of gasoline in this country. And now what are they doing? They're blaming OPEC. They're saying it's OPEC's fault. This is shifting the blame. If Donald Trump did this, what would they do? And that is the larger point here. We've got a refugee immigration crisis at the American border. The Border Patrol and local facilities are overwhelmed. On top of that, a great many of those illegal aliens coming across the border have COVID, and they're letting them run wild in the streets and giving them bus tickets to God knows where. On top of that, you've got the virus raging again in America. Joe Biden said he was going to fight it. He was going to beat it. He can't even get people to take the vaccine. If Donald Trump were president, the media would be having a field day about all of this stuff. They would be blaming him for all of it, and they would be blasting him for curtailing domestic oil production and then blaming OPEC. But it's not him doing any of it. It's Joe Biden. It's the Biden administration that has a humanitarian crisis at the border. It's Joe Biden who's allowing illegal aliens with COVID to come into the country and giving them bus tickets to spread it out across the country. It's Joe Biden who can't get Americans to get the vaccine. It's Joe Biden who's overseen a massive spike in COVID around the country. It's Joe Biden who's overseen energy prices going up. It's Joe Biden who punished domestic oil production. It's Joe Biden who's trying to blame OPEC for his own the consequences of his own policies. It's Joe Biden, and the media relentlessly, casually, daily, regularly gives Joe Biden a pass and refuses to even cover it. The press will not even connect the dots on energy prices in this country going up and Joe Biden waging war against domestic energy production. No, it's all those Arabs' fault in OPEC. That's where the media is going with this. That's where Joe Biden is going with it, so that's what they're doing. Just imagine if Donald Trump were president and you had these people flooding across the border. You barely even hear about border coverage anymore. After months where finally you had news outlets having to concede it actually is a crisis, and you had various news outlets like Politico come out and say, well, we're not going to call it a crisis, or I think the AP as well said they wouldn't call it a crisis because that's the Republican talking point. It actually is a crisis. You have illegal aliens coming in who are COVID positive, and they've been letting them spread out across the country, and now they're saying, oh, well, you're racist if you bring that up. No, it's the freaking truth. They are not to blame for the COVID crisis in the country. They absolutely are not. There's no data on it. But they're certainly adding to it, are they not? You have COVID spiking around the country. They're blaming Ron DeSantis for it. Ron DeSantis gets the blame for everything these days. Hawaii is going back into lockdowns and COVID restrictions because COVID is so high there. They haven't had any deaths, but COVID's spiking. They're worried about hospitals overwhelmed. They're shutting back down in Hawaii. If Hawaii had a Republican governor, they would be savaging the Republican governor. Louisiana has the worst COVID outbreak in the country. You do not hear the media talking about John Bel Edwards. You flat out do not hear the media talking about John Bel Edwards, who's up for re-election. He is a Democrat in a state that went for Donald Trump, and the media is giving him an absolute pass. They want to blame everything on Ron DeSantis. If they could somehow blame the spike on energy prices on Ron DeSantis, they sure as hell would, and you know it and I know it. They want to give Joe Biden a pass for all of it. This is staggering, though, that the federal government, under Joe Biden, having shut down domestic energy production, is now calling for OPEC to do so. On top of that, what happened yesterday? What happened yesterday? Yesterday, the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a report saying we are too far gone. We've got to make drastic cuts now to stop it even further, but in the next 30 years, we're going to see climate change and we're going to see all sorts of natural disasters because we haven't done enough to cut back on fossil fuels and emissions that cause global warming. But we do have time to stop it from being a further catastrophe if only we take direct, immediate action to cut back on fossil fuels. And a day later, Joe Biden says, hey, OPEC, can you all produce some more fossil fuels? What a stunning contrast. What a stunning contrast. The Biden administration hurts our domestic energy production in the name of helping global warming and then asks OPEC to produce more for us. Is anybody in the media going to cover this? Is anyone in the media going to take notice of this? Is anyone at CNN or MSNBC going to point any of this stuff out? Or are they too busy at CNN covering for Chris Cuomo's cover-up of his brother's scandal? Does anybody out there pay attention to any of this stuff in the mainstream media to relay it to the people who don't listen to conservative talk radio or Fox News? Because there's a hell of a lot of stuff going on with the Biden administration, and the media seems too busy fluffing them up to ever cover any of it, and how much of it is going to wreak havoc on the economy, cause inflation, cause a recession, cause problems, fail to engage us with the recovery. In fact, that's what the White House statement says here. They need OPEC to produce more energy now that we can't, thanks Joe Biden, because it's otherwise going to forestall an economic recovery. You know what? They had the opportunity to make us be energy independent, and instead they squandered it to placate the environmentalists and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.